Hello, welcome back to Phoenix Composites HQ. I say HQ, my little shed in the middle of Scotland. It's freezing cold, as you can see. Lovely April weather that we're having at the minute as well. Updates for you guys. So a few things been going on. Firstly, I've been stupidly busy with work. The main reason is this thing, this Focus RS bumper that I've had for a couple of months. It's the main reason I've not been able to take on any big jobs in a while, because this has taken up so much space and a lot of time. But it's looking sick though. So on Friday, that's getting delivered to its new owner, and that'll be taken down to Newcastle in the back of this little guy. If I've not said this to you guys before, this is my 1992 Suzuki Carry that I imported from Japan a few months ago, and it's honestly the most fun that I've had in a vehicle in a long time. And I've had some silly cars, like I've had E36 drift cars, I've had the GR Yaris, that was a lot of fun too, but the truck is just absolutely lit a fire of creativity under me. So I've got a few ideas for this thing. For those that don't know, it's a 1992 Suzuki Carry DC51T, the two-wheel drive one. I imported it from Japan last year. It was the cheapest one in Japan that I could find, because I was always going to use it as a base for something else. I was never going to keep it stock. As you can see, it's been changed a little bit. This thing came over white with faded plastics and all sorts. Spent a bit of time cleaning it up, truck liner, like the bed liner. Painted it black, just with rattle cans. Again, it was an 800 quid truck, so I'm not really putting too much effort into the bodywork. Added the livery. I've also got the S13 coilovers, the CoPro Lenlec wheels. Made a bash bar for the rear, some custom LED lights, custom LED front lights. OMP Velocity steering wheel. I still need to fix the seats. The seats are a bit shit, but that will come. And then like homemade exhaust and things too. So it's a funny little truck. And then welded the diff. So just do big donuts in the yard outside whenever nobody's here, which is also fun. Definitely not on the road though. So the plan I've got, I did have an MX-5 as well, but I sold that a couple of months ago. And the reason I sold it is so I could fund something for the Carry. The day I sold it, I immediately drove through to Edinburgh, picked up a Yamaha Thunderace. I don't know if you guys know your bikes at all. I don't know my bikes, but it was 1 litre, about 140 horsepower, and looked like it would be perfect to swap into the truck because it's carbed, no EFI to worry about. So the big plan is to get that engine in the truck, but to do so, I'm going to add some monitoring stuff as well, because the truck comes with a very basic temperature gauge, a speedo that's not accurate, so I'm using a GPS speedo and the fuel tank sensor, and that's basically it. So we're going to add some oil pressure, oil temperature and water temperature gauges, and for that I would like a pod to add to the dash that I can mount all 3 of these little gauges on. So we're going to grab the Vega, use that again, take a scan of the dash, and then we're going to use that to create a sort of 3 gauge pod to sit on top of there to mount the gauges. So quick one for you on that today. Let's jump forward, grab the scanner and get cracking. As you can see, it's been a little while since I used the scanner last, so check for updates. And there we go, there's a software update as well, so we'll down the update. And this is good, like Einstar have been regularly updating these things. There's been a lot of updates, improving accuracy, improving tracking. There's things are generally getting faster and more improved. I know when they first came out, people were worried that the scanner wasn't up to much, but it was maybe released a little bit early. But with the updates, I've noticed the quality of the scanners has been going through the roof, so I'm very happy with it still. And again, the fact it's portable just makes it really handy to jump in and out of things and take a quick scan and come back to the desk. So whilst we wait for this to download, let's have a little look at what we've got for the truck still. This is legitimately horrible outside, and I need to get from here across to the other unit. I don't want to. Yeah. We're wet. Anyway, in here, turn the brightness up a little bit as well. So this is the pile of stuff we've got for the truck. This is the Thunderace engine. And this has just recently had a lot of work done by me. So when we got the bike here, my fault for laying it on its side. Again, apologies for the rain noise. It's absolutely lashing down at the minute. Laid the bike on its side in the back of the truck to transport it. Forgot about oil creep through one of the cylinders. Turned it over and it looks like it's blowing the gasket. So lots of chocolate milkshake in the gearbox. That was fun, but anyway, after a bit of effort, that full head's been stripped. It's had new valve stem seals, it's had new gaskets, new head gasket, it's had a skim, new gaskets for the clutch cover and for the sump as well. And then we've now got this little guy in here. Added a sandwich plate. That's got our oil pressure, oil temperature sensors, and I've also got coolant temperature sensors to go on as well. Had to drill out all of these manifold studs because they all broke, so I managed to get some repair flanges to fit the exhaust as well. In theory though, this should be quite a simple swap, because with it being carbed, there's hardly any electrics to worry about. So the main thing is going to be mounting, and for that we've got a box section over there. We're going to make a cradle for that and then weld it to the legs of the truck. Got an exhaust over there, which is going to get cut and repositioned and stuck out the side of the truck too. And then the pièce de résistance managed to pick up these bad boys, some Workmeister S1s. These are 15 by 8.5. ET-1, I want to say. I can't remember off the top of my head. They're in alright condition. Found a guy in Edinburgh had them. He'd had them for years, sat in his garage and never used them. So I picked them up. Needed new tyres. So here's an opportunity to give a big shout out to my guys at Tyre Streets. I've been working with Tyre Streets for a couple of years now. First got together with them back with the Yaris when they started doing semi-slicks and things for me to go on track and get more time, more seat time. Since then, had a good partnership with them. As a reminder, if anybody wants tyres, you can use the discount code P3LWO, which I'll put on the screen as well. That'll give you 10% off any of the house brands. So for that, you've got the Acceleras, the Armstrongs, you've got the Zetexes, Atanis, all that kind of stuff. They do often have a lot of sales on those. So like Easter sales, I think are on at the minute, where you can get up to 20% off tyres. If there's a sale on a different discount code, use that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to promote and say you have to use my code. You don't owe me anything. But if you want money off tyres and there isn't a sale on, again, use my code. Helps the channel a little bit, but also gets you guys some money off a great range of tyres too. So these are the works. They're going to go on the truck. So that's another project for the scanner, is I'm going to have to make some bodywork because these are wide boys. I think, I don't know, what kind of kit? Something like the Rocket Bunny kit, not as big as that, but something just to box the arches out, cover the wheels because they stick out about 70mm past the bodywork, and get cutting as well. And then we can get everything that's in here. Also Tedua radiator. In fact, I'll show you this too. Had an idea and found out that a EG Civic, I want to say. EG Civics have a similar size radiator, so not trusting the single core one that's on the truck, I decided to pick up this little guy from Tedua too. And this should fit with a bit of bashing. When I say a bit of bashing, I literally just get the hammer, smack the bodywork a little bit, and that should fit absolutely fine. So yeah, here's a little tour. Here's where I'm going to be for a while, welding things and fitting this little guy. And then we can do some 6 skids when it's done. Looking forward to it. Anyway, back over there. The update should be done by now. Okay, so sad. I love this little truck. Do not love the rain. Anyway, back over there and we'll get scanning. So, I'm a bit of an idiot. I forgot I was using the hotspot on my phone and went to the unit, filmed over there, came back and realised the download had paused, so it's still going. But anyway, it gives us a chance to look over what's actually changing in this new version. There's continuous software updates. I know when people first got these, they were a bit unsure about scanning or accuracy, that kind of thing, but Einstar has shown they are continuing to support this and updating things regularly. The last version I had was version 1.2.1-16. We're now on 1.3.2-10, which was released about 2 weeks ago. On this, they've expanded the working distance for fast mode, which is the mode we use for doing the boot lid. That's good because it means you can get closer now. It's gone from 350 down to 270mm minimum distance. So that's good to get closer to where the outer edge of the HD mode is, so there's more of an overlap now between the two. Improved tracking and low resolution in fast mode. Again, tracking improvements are always good. Added German. I'm not German. I don't speak German. Doesn't really help me. But if you are German, you no longer have to feel like you're being excluded. You also have German available too, and some bugs have been fixed too. Vega will now check your USB protocol and let you know when USB 2.0 is detected and come up with some suggestions. Supports automatic detection of the base plane, adds wireless screencasting. That's actually quite a handy feature to have. I'll need to find a way to use that on my monitor. I'm not sure what I could use it for, but we'll have a think, because screencasting is a handy feature to have. Supports filling holes automatically, enable continuous scanning. Continuous scanning after editing a point cloud, that's actually handy. I'm going to install that. So continuous scanning is handy because before, if you progressed to the point cloud and then went to convert to mesh, that was it, that was your scan done. Whereas now it looks like you'll be able to edit the point cloud, trim out any noise, any data you don't want, then go back and continue scanning, which is great because it means you can reorient stuff. If you've got stuff that's kind of, maybe you're laying it on a, what are they called? Lazy Susan, the turn-tables. If you've got something on that and you want to reorient it, a lot of the time you've scanned the table itself. So it means you can trim the table off that, reorient the part, and then you're not going to have loads and loads of turntable scans just kind of messing up your overall model. So that's a good feature. But anyway, it looks like we're getting back on track. I'm going to get the truck inside because it's absolutely chucking down still. Get the truck inside, get the gauges out, and I'll show you what we're trying to do. So first things first, shut it down because it's flipping cold. I mean, I'm in here with the heat lamps on, the radiator, and it's like 12 degrees, even with that on. So it's probably about 5 or 6 outside. If you want that in freedom units, that's probably like minus 270. Fahrenheit it feels like or something. I don't know. I don't do Fahrenheit, but in Celsius it is not the warmest. So we've got the lamps on, get a bit of heat so we can work. And this is the inside of a Carry. So this has been changed a little bit. It was a bit more sparse than this when I first got it. Cup holder was made by me just so I could have my kind of monster on the dash. Obviously I need that, that's very important. Interior has been trimmed with the door cards and the roof. My friend Matthew did that. He did some like fake Alcantara stuff just to make it look a bit nicer. Added some door speakers because the original radio had like a little speaker here and it didn't even work. And I've added my 10 quid eBay radio, which just gives me Bluetooth, which is all I really need. What else? Gear knob I made myself with a little aluminium shaft. Nice knob. Do like a nice knob. But that will also get changed when we put the bike engine in, because we're going to use the forward and backwards cables. There's an up and down, so I need to make like an H pattern gate around that to stop it moving sideways, and then just use the forward and backwards for the shifter, which is great. And the OMP Velocity steering wheel, which I got from Ben, an old Irish friend who had one from his car going spare, so that's kind of given me something nice to hold on to as well. So gauge wise, in here all we've got is coolant temperature, just says cold to hot, doesn't tell me much else whatsoever. A speedo in kilometers an hour that just kind of does that. It doesn't really help, which is why I've got the GPS speedo, and a fuel gauge which just seems to have a life of its own. It stays on all the time even when you disconnect the battery. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but it'll do. So the plan is I'm going to keep that, not use that, not use that. In place of, in fact not in place of anything, I don't even have a rev counter, so I've got my nice AliExpress one here. It's going to sit just in the middle. And then what we're going to do today is going to make a place for these to go on here. So I've got oil temperature, oil pressure and coolant temperature. I'm going to make a pod for the 3 of these that sits on top of the dash. And I'll be able to take the wiring down through the dash. And we're also going to add this little gear position indicator, because I found out that the Thunderace actually has a 6-position switch on it, so I can actually wire this thing up, and rather than just having neutral, I'll also have first, second, third, fourth and fifth, because it's only a 5-speed bike, 1 down, 4 up. So yeah, so let's get this prepped. We'll get some scanning spray on here because it's quite a dark colour. It's quite reflective as well. So scanning spray, some tracking dots, get the top of here scanned, and then I wonder if we'll be able to scan it through the windscreen actually. That'll be an interesting experiment. Get the top of that scanned, take that into Fusion, make a quick pod and get it printed. So, give it a shake. So we're all set up, we've got the scanning spray down. You'll see some remnants of old marker dots there because I realised that if you put the dots down and then put the scanning spray on top of it, it can't see the marker dots. So I redid it, put the scanning spray first, then marker dots on top. This is fine for something small, but on bigger parts the spray might start evaporating before you got the dots down. So I don't know, I'm not sure what the best way is to do it, but this is what's going to work for me. In terms of setup, we have got marker alignment turned on, low resolution because again it's mainly a flat piece, so as long as I can get roughly the right shape to stick on top, it'll be fine. And then scanning distance wise, we have set it to 100 to 350mm because this is just under 350mm from the top of the glass. So hopefully this works. It's picking up the dots through the screen, so I'm hoping by sliding this along the windscreen, I'll be able to scan through the windscreen and pick up the dash. So let's see what happens. Let's hit start. And there we go. So you can see we're already picking up the dots. All the way up to the top of there, which is great. This is the top edge. So we want to keep 4 dots in the screen if you can. You can see there's still a couple there that have got a bit of dust on and it's not picking up. These can all get smoothed out later. It's not the end of the world. And there we go, there's another dot. Trying to keep 4 in display, but yeah, it's struggling a bit with some of the ones at the bottom. But that's fine. This is the ones we want that are up here. Again, you can see little lumps next to the dots. I don't know if that's picking up on the screen, but that's my fault. That's the texture from the old dots and the spray. But it's not the end of the world. So we'll keep going down. Down we go. There's another dot. Pick up the bottom edge. And we'll come back over to this left-hand side because it's a bit red, so it needs a little bit more data. Get some more dots over here. There we go. It's going to lose tracking here. Watch it lose tracking because I haven't got enough dots on screen. Nope, there we go. Got it. Keep it. Go on. I think we're just missing a top edge up here as well, so we'll come back up. I'm just sliding this over the glass. This is working surprisingly well. It's just completely ignoring the windscreen and scanning the top of the dash. So that's good enough for me. Right, let's stop it there, see what we've got. Back at the desk, and this is our scan. So if we're going to zoom in here, you might see little bits of texture which aren't massively obvious, but there's a few places where I had scanning dots before, and like I said, I took the scanning dots off, redid the spray, put more dots back over the top. So there's a little bit of texture, but I can flatten that out in something like Mesh Mixer. It's really, really easy to do. But we want the main geometry, and it looks like that's pretty much the top of the dash, which is fine. If we zoom out, it's not actually picked anything up from the glass up here. So that's actually scanned through the windscreen and the top of the dash, which is ideal. Like, I'm genuinely over the moon with that. It saves a lot of awkward positioning. So we are going to take that. That'll give us a point cloud in a second. There we go. And we want to fix this as well. So let's see, where's the settings for this again? Fill markers, that's what we want. Don't need it watertight because we're just going to use the surface and then redraw it in Fusion as well. Resolution 0.5mm, like I said, is absolutely fine. So we'll apply this, and it's now generating, and we'll jump forward till that's completed. And that's been 30 seconds maybe. It's quite a small mesh, so I'm not surprised it didn't take long to complete. But as I said, we have got a couple of slight issues, and these issues are very much user error. So you can see these little marks here. This is where I had the dots on before, and I sprayed over the top of them. The scanner couldn't pick them up then because it didn't have the contrast between the reflective center and the black outer. So I took the dots off. I didn't do a very good job of cleaning up afterwards, though, so there's still some marks and some bumps and things in the spray, but that's fine. They're easy enough to fill out. To be honest, the way I'm going to redraw the mesh anyway doesn't matter too much, because I'm going to redraw this surface and reverse engineer it. This hole, this is from scanning dots, where I presume it couldn't figure out what was a scanning dot and what was just powder. So we are going to use auto hole filling. And you see these are outlined in red here. It'll detect any edges and it'll call them a hole. And this little one here, to select that, if we turn this diameter, the perimeter up to 200mm, that's now identifying any holes that have got a perimeter of up to 203mm was the rough thing I set it at. It's not filled, it's not picked up the outside of the actual mesh, but this little hole it has. So let's see what happens when we hit apply. And boom, there you go. That hole is gone. So even if it doesn't pick up the scanning dots properly, it'll fill holes for you. And that's good enough for me. This is where the dash binnacle is at the minute. This is where we'll be putting the gauges. So front of the truck is that way, gauges facing that way, and that's the top edge of the dash. So we've got something to model from. So let's get this finished, get it in Fusion. We'll do a quick model and see what we can come up with for the gauge pod. Here we are in Fusion, and this is the mesh now imported. Again, I use the online transfer of that. You can upload the mesh to a cloud, download it to your PC, it just saves cables and things. And you can see from spinning it around that there is a little bit of texture from the dots and stuff, but these are the old dots. So the scanner fills in the dots, you can tell by these little points here. That's where it's cut out and remeshed it. These other ones are just remnants of what was there before, but that's fine. So what we're going to be doing, we're in the mesh section just now, and what we need is to create a surface with this. A lot of people tend to use 3D scans and try and use them directly to edit. We don't want that. We're going to re-engineer this back surface here. You see that with the mouse? I don't know. I should probably screen record, but we'll figure that out one day. So we need to basically redesign this section here, and to do that, we are going to use something called a mesh section sketch. Now the sketch itself isn't going to be used for modeling from. We're going to create a mesh section sketch. It makes like a cross section of the mesh. We'll use that and redraw that to loft and create a surface, which is like Fusion works in solids, they're all parametric, and we'll create a surface. I know it's not solid, but it's like a solid body. We'll use that, which will then give us a base to build out from. So what we need to do is we need to go to create mesh section sketch. I know you can't see the screen properly, so I do apologize. I haven't figured out how to do screen records and things, but we'll get there. And the body is this one, and we want a section plane, which at the minute you can see it's set for right in the middle of the body, and that worked for me. So if we go to OK, that's now created this orange line. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. This orange line is now a cross section of the part. So if we turn the body off, that's our cross section. What we want to do is create a load of those running along this part, which we can then use to draw our own lines, our own curves, loft them together, and that will give us a flat surface. So in a wee second, I will show you what we're doing. And here we go. So I've spaced these out every 30mm, all these cross sections. The reason I've done it that kind of distance is because this is fairly smooth and flat. You don't need too much detail, but if you wanted to maybe incorporate this part of the dash up here, You would need more section sketches around here to help that transition as we go from here up the way. This will make more sense when we loft it later, but for now, this is the way that I'm doing it. I'm just using this area here. This is measuring 30mm wide, so 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Gives me a workout surface of 180mm wide, and given the gauge pods are 45mm wide each, that gives enough space for 3 gauge pods and the gear indicator all in this area on top of the dash. So that's perfect. So what we want to do is turn off the body. This is our sketches now. These are the cross sections from the mesh itself, but you can see these aren't particularly smooth. They're all wibbly wobbly, and that's just surface deviation. It could be noise from the mesh, whatever it is. We've got the rough shape there, but for me, that's a little bit too granular. We're going to loft across these when we draw the sketches, and I don't want loads of surface imperfections. So what we're going to do is go and edit one of these. Hello, there we go. Double click or right click, edit sketch. And up in create, you've now got an option called fit curves to mesh section. Now, this is good if you want really accurate detail of what the scanner's picked up. Over here, you've got options. You can have a spline, closed spline, arcs, all sorts. All you do is just click along it, and it's gonna give you a nice blue line. But as I say, you can change the tolerance on here. You can make it a bit smoother. If you wanted to have like a 1mm tolerance, for instance, you could do that, but we don't want to do that. So this is too bumpy, it's too uneven, it's not what I want to do. So we'll cancel that, come back out of there. What we're going to do is manually draw it. So let's turn off all of these ones to make it a bit easier to see. And we are going to do a fit point spline. We're going to start around about the base there, and we're going to try and minimize the amount of vertexes we use, because this will give us a much nicer, smoother surface when it comes to modeling it. So if I go like so, hit enter, you can now see that this is a lot smoother, especially at the top here, but it's probably not quite tight to the mesh. Yeah, so it's just a little bit above it. But the tolerances we're working to, this isn't rocket science. This is literally making something that will sit on top of the dash, and there's going to be adhesive tape. There's going to be something between it as well. So I'm not too fussed about getting this perfect. As long as it's good enough, that will work for me. And having done that, this is now us with all of our hand-drawn splines. So these are a lot smoother than the originals. These orange ones are the ones that are all bumpy and a little bit wavy. We don't want that. We want a nice smooth surface. And the reason we do this is because when it comes to creating the part, we're going to make the part on top of the surface and then use the surface to cut it to give us a nice mounting face. If we use the original scan for that, it's full of triangles, so it takes forever. And because Fusion only works off a single core, it really doesn't like processing that kind of Boolean operation. Boolean is basically where you take an object and another object and chop one using the other. Using those mesh surfaces takes forever. I've tried it before for parts for the Yaris, and it just takes ages. This is a much cleaner way of doing it, but to do that, we need a surface. So what we need to do now, in the surface tab, we're going to create a loft. I'm going to go from this one, to 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 this one, and to this one. But we also need to turn on bodies as well, because we need that. So let's turn that mesh off. And you can see now what it's done is it's joined these together as a surface. This isn't perfect. This isn't exactly the same as the Carry actually is, but when we click OK, that's now given us a nice surface that Fusion wants to work with. And it's pretty smooth. It's all right. This depends entirely on where your vertices are, but because Fusion's parametric, if you wanted to, you could go back and move vertexes about, change the angle of stuff to get things a bit neater too. But if we turn the mesh section on here, you can see now that we're pretty close. Tolerance of, I mean, bear in mind, this is a small part, so you've got a difference here of maybe like a millimeter, which is absolutely nothing. So these kind of sections here where they're poking through, they're the high spots, and then the low spots are underneath. But you can see it fairly well matches up with what we've scanned. But that's hand drawn, which means that when we come to modeling something now, we've got a nice surface that we can cut with. Fusion loves these. Obviously, the less vertexes you can use, the better. Fusion really doesn't like processing lots of data to do cutting operations and things. But that's our surface. So the next thing we need to do is model the gauges, and I'm going to do that for you now. And there we go. So we've got a very basic shape for a gauge holder. So what I need to do is hollow this out. All the wiring is going to be housed inside, and then it will come down to the dash. Now you might be wondering, why have I modeled it all the way through this lovely surface that we created instead of modeling from it? And that is because we're now going to use that to cut this to get the shape of the dash. So what you want to do is you want to go to split body, select that as the body to split, and then we're going to select the surface we made as the tool. When we hit OK, you'll now see that we can turn these off. We now have a pretty much perfect fit to the dash. And when I turn my sketch back on, you'll see I have all these holes dug out too. And this will be the housing for the 3 pods. I'm going to add a little bit for the gear indicator at the top corner as well. But yeah, that's basically it. And then when that's printed, this surface at the bottom here, that's going to line up perfectly with the dash. And all I need to do is add some 3M tape or something underneath it. That'll hold it on the dash. Maybe trim the outside in some forest suede. Make it look a bit nicer. But yeah, let's get this finished and let's get it printed. And there we are, all set up in Bamboo Studio. Sent to the P1S. We'll let this print. This is going to take 6 hours, and given the fact it's just gone 6 o'clock at night, I'm going to go home, come back tomorrow, and fingers crossed we'll have a part ready to test fit. And we are back. Next day, still miserable outside. However, here is our gauge pod. So this was on print overnight. Took about 5 hours or so, just printing in PLA, just for a prototype, but happy with that. Let's get it assembled, put it in the truck, see what it looks like. Back in the truck, and as you can see, it's absolutely gross outside again. So here we have our gauge pod assembled, shift indicator, 3 gauges, bit of tape on the bottom just to hold it. Now for the moment of truth. It's about there. There we go. And that's it, 1 gauge pod. As you can see, it matches fairly closely with the dash. Bit of tape under there, you wouldn't even notice. I need to line it up and find the exact spot it goes into, but this is my kind of eye level now. Maybe if I did it again, I would tilt them back a bit, but they're still perfectly readable. Exactly where I want them as well. So happy with that. Right, back inside because it's cold. It's horrible. Classic spring in Scotland. So quick overview of what we've done. So we scanned obviously the truck with the Vega scanner. Once again, this thing's performed perfectly for me. I do need to, as a side note, I do need to recalibrate it as well. But even without the calibration, which I've not done in a couple of weeks, it's still accurate. Plenty accurate enough that I can make the parts that I need. The Process 2 Fusion 360, again, not using the mesh itself to model from, but creating a surface that matches the mesh using the cross-section sketches and then drawing your own splines and making a surface across them. That's a much nicer workflow than what I was doing before. I was trying to convert meshes, that was taking time. I had multiple crashes on my PC, and that's just an issue with Fusion. It really doesn't like working with STLs on meshes. But if you can convert that into a solid surface to model from, it works much better. I eyeballed the angle of the gauges, so they're a little bit more upright than I want them to be. That's fine. It's, it won't take me long to change the design and redo them, but that's why I'm printing prototypes instead of using the expensive stuff, so that can get another one made. If anybody else needs a gauge pod for their carry, by all means give me a shout, let me know. I'm happy to knock something up for you as well. But yeah, I'm happy with that. Sorry, I keep looking over because I just think the truck looks really cool with the delivery. Like, I love that little thing. Such a goofy little truck. So yeah, so that's it for now. I know it's been a bit of a longer video than normal, but there's lots to come with the carry. Lots more to come with the scanner as well. We need to work on some bodywork. Need to fit those Workmeister S1s. Lots to come, but hopefully this is a nice chunky update for you to sink your teeth into. Have a great Easter, and I shall see you all later. Bye!